The Terminator franchise is exceptional. Each new film, defying all odds, gets worse than the previous one. But why do filmmakers continue to bash their heads against the wall? I've spent weeks researching the entire Terminator franchise to understand its downfall. What made the first two movies one of the highest-grossing films in the history of Hollywood? And how did it end up as one big mess? And most importantly, is there a way out of the time loop of failures filmmakers got themselves in? Come with me if you want to know. Welcome to Hollywood Lore. The first Terminator was James Cameron's own idea, which he had as a nightmare after filming a box office bomb, Piranha 2. The script itself drew some studios' attention. Paramount was ready to even buy the script, but only the script, not Cameron. Fortunately, Arnold Schwarzenegger got interested in both the script and Cameron. The budget of $6.5 million was given precisely for Arnold. If he hadn't liked Cameron even a bit, there probably would have been no Cameron at all. But Arnold, who already had a hit on his hands, was captivated by his wild creativity and inventiveness. Several years working on Roger Corman films taught Cameron all the tricks of the low-budget trade. People say Arnold is a conflict-free guy, unlike many other stars. But everyone notes one thing: if Arnold likes the director, he is ready to do everything, even stay overnight on the set. So frankly speaking, Cameron knows that he owes this one to Arnie. Without him in Terminator, there would be no Aliens, True Lies, Titanic, or Avatar. That's probably why Cameron is so positive about all the films with Schwarzenegger. It's often being said that the $6.5 million budget is a very small amount of money for a film like the first Terminator, but not really. The crew worked in a big brain mode and filmed the movie on the streets discreetly. When the authorities noticed this unpaid activity, the crew usually jumped in cars and disappeared into darkness. One scene was even filmed by just Arnold and Cameron, so that's why the film looks more expensive than it really is. Other hits released around the same time cost the same or even less. Like, for example, A Nightmare on Elm Street cost only $1.5 million. The Breakfast Club, which earned more in America than The Terminator, cost just $1 million. These two truly are low-budget films. But the first Terminator is something like modern $50 million budget movies, like John Wick or the first Deadpool. As no one in the studio believed in the movie, some scenes were canceled. The studio even threatened Cameron to cancel the project if he films future scenes beyond the script, but probably it's for the best. After all, some of them appeared in the second Terminator, where there were no budget issues. The film barely had any marketing campaign. James Cameron often complained about it in many interviews. Arnold tried to convince the studio that the film was worth promoting, but the studio called Terminator a trash horror movie and advised Arnold to mind his own business. After the release, Terminator became #1 at the box office, but the bad promotion affected the movie, and it barely surpassed the documentary anthology Terror in the Isles. However, the gossip was spreading lightning fast, therefore it remained first on the second week of release. The movie started getting attention over the weekend and gained more screens. With a budget of $6.5 million, Terminator grossed $78. It was impressive and not expected at all. Orion Studio hoped to just hit 15 million tops with this one and gain more with others, obviously more successful films. More successful films were The Cotton Club and The Purple Rose of Cairo by Woody Allen. Both sank at the box office without a chance. The Cotton Club even became one of the biggest flops of the 80s. The careers of all Terminator actors and the director immediately took off, promoting them to rising stars. Cameron with Schwarzenegger became the next big thing. James Cameron got so big he even won a Golden Raspberry for his script for the second Rambo. Sylvester Stallone said everywhere that it was all Cameron's job. This taught Cameron an important life lesson: to strike first. The second Terminator was promised just a few weeks after the first one hit the big screen. There was a plan: increase the budget of the next movie to $15 million, and release it in 1987. Spoiler: the plan failed everywhere. Cameron was busy and didn't want to make Terminator again, and Arnold refused to participate without Cameron. Eventually, the Hemdale studio went bankrupt, and Arnold, who previously worked with Carolco Studio on Total Recall, persuaded Mario Kassar and Andrew Vajna to buy the rights for Terminator, so they did. The studio was changed, and the estimated budget was changed as well. Now it was planned to allocate $80 million for the sequel, making the movie the most expensive in history at that time. But Cameron didn't have time to play around and insisted on increasing the budget even further, so that in the end it went over the $100 million mark. Terminator 2 was released in July 1991 and spent 4 weeks at the top of the box office. Even Point Break, directed by James Cameron's then-wife Catherine Bigelow, took a hit. The couple could not withstand such betrayal and broke up. The second Terminator was what you would call a blockbuster, a true one. It was a rare occasion back then. Having practiced on the sequel to Alien in 1986, Cameron had mastered the craft of the perfect sequel. The movie caused huge crowds in theaters, and for the first 4 weeks, no one paid attention to other films until one Belgian star came with a new masterpiece. With a budget of $102 million, the Terminator 2 grossed over $500. What really blows the mind is that it had an R rating, the most expensive film in history at the time, the highest grossing film of the year, and children were not allowed to watch it. What nonsense. Leave a like if you also watched Terminator 2 as a child. The next R-rated film that managed to surpass Terminator 2 in revenue was The Matrix Reloaded in 2003. In terms of total revenue at the time of its release, Terminator was only beaten by Star Wars and E.T. the Extraterrestrial. More than that, the second Terminator is one of the few R-rated movies that managed to have great toy sales. Children loved these toys and grabbed them instantly in the shops. Hard to name the precise revenue, but they say the film made almost as much money from toy sales as it did from the box office. The studio Carolco went bankrupt shortly after the release. Kinda ironic, you say. True, but that's only if you don't pay much attention to film distribution details. Carolco's problem was that it relied on Hollywood majors for distributing movies. So let's do some simple math here. A film that grossed $500 million would first lose the standard 50% revenue due to theater cuts. From the remaining $250 million, a percentage was taken by Sony, which handled the film's distribution. Back then, it was around 25%. Considering all that, Carolco could only get $200 million tops, having spent $102 million on the movie. Also, the marketing aspect. Such a big release clearly cost Carolco and Sony a lot. From toys and other merchandise, Carolco received an amusingly small percentage, good only for buying a bag of chips. So, despite the film's box office success, it did not make the studio crazy rich. Same situation was with other Carolco movies, like Basic Instinct. While significant box office successes did not stabilize the studio, many small failures impacted it greatly. They wouldn't have if Carolco was a big studio, but it wasn't. Everyone wanted to start filming the third Terminator ASAP, preferably yesterday. Everyone except James Cameron. He claimed he gave all he had and lacked any desire to return to the franchise. Schwarzenegger constantly refused any offers without James on set. But the corporate can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. In 2003, Arnie's career was collapsing, and he needed a big hit for his political affairs. Since 1999, in every interview, Arnold had been announcing his decision to run for governor of California, while his films were failing at the box office. So when he received another offer to become a cyborg again, he finally agreed. Arnie says he wouldn't have if Cameron had any problems with it. But according to Arnie, James told him, "Go ahead, just squeeze as much money out of them as you can." And Arnold sure did. He earned $30 million for participation, which was a record at that time, excluding box office percentages. Including percentages, Arnold earned the most from Twins, ultimately making over $50 million, just for the record. In addition to his fee for the third Terminator, Arnie also squeezed large percentages from toy and media sales. As if it wasn't enough, he insisted on shooting in California. Due to filming in one of the most expensive states, the studio couldn't save on production costs or get tax benefits that many other states offered. Considering all this, it was no surprise that the budget of the third Terminator became a record back then. The movie had a bunch of problems. Well-known directors immediately declined offers to participate. Arnie personally approached Sir Ridley Scott, but he pretended to have a ton of work the next couple of years. Then Arnie went to McTiernan, who was too busy trying to fix Rollerball. Eventually, the director who agreed was Jonathan Mostow. He was on a roll after the success of U-571. Later, Mostow stated in several interviews that Terminator 3 ruined his career. For 6 years after the film's release, he was fed up with low-budget, trashy offers. And when he finally took on Surrogates, with Hollywood's manliest Christmas hero, it completely flopped and ended Mostow's career as a director. The creators of the third Terminator initially wanted to bring back Edward Furlong as John Connor. He was signed on for the film until 2001. He was fired and the studio was looking for a replacement. Rumor has it that it was because Furlong couldn't stop looking for liquid Terminators at the bottom of the bottle and getting pissed off when he didn't find any. There was also a mess when filming began. Sophia Bush, who was signed for the main female role, looked too young on screen. According to director Jonathan Mostow, this made the scenes with her pretty hilarious. Sophia was replaced by Claire Danes, who joined the cast without any preparation. However, the director believed her uncertainty during the shoot actually benefited the film, as her character was unexpectedly thrust into action as well, so it all came together. During filming, Arnold invested in the movie. He liked the chase scene so much, he insisted on including a moment where a store gets demolished. The budget couldn't cover it, so Arnold paid his own $1.5 million for these few seconds. 200 million Terminator 3 was released in July 2003, 12 years after the sequel. The start was, as they say, not great, not terrible. At the American box office, the film grossed $73 million the first week, but the second week was closer to terrible for Terminator, as Disney's dark horse was finally here. Nobody expected a pirate movie to break even after the flop of Cutthroat Island, but Pirates of the Caribbean became a huge worldwide hit. Additionally, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen was released at the same time. All this made a perfect storm for the third Terminator. So in the end, the film earned $433 million at the box office. That's a lot, but not enough in that case. If it weren't for Arnold's huge fee in filming in California, the movie would have easily fit within the standard blockbuster budget of $140 million. Then yeah, the third Terminator would have become a success. Or probably the movie could have been saved, if not for R rating. In theory, removing it was easy. Just cut out a couple of scenes with Kristanna Loken and reduce the amount of blood in some scenes. Not too hard and would have done the trick, but history doesn't deal in what-ifs. All of that didn't happen. And once again, the idea of an instant sequel was abandoned. Salvation was released in 2009, but couldn't save the franchise. Nowadays, many consider it the best Terminator film after the second one. But back then, people didn't think so. That's actually a trademark of the franchise, excluding the first two movies. With each new Terminator, people suddenly realized that the previous one wasn't all that bad. Terminator Salvation is the only film in the saga that James Cameron didn't praise. He got into it, however. It was Cameron who pushed Sam Worthington into the film. Avatar was released after the fourth Terminator, and Cameron wanted Sam's face to be even a bit recognizable. The director of the new Terminator was McG, the creator of Charlie's Angels. Like Jonathan Mostow, he also believes his work on Terminator damaged his career, and that's true. After this one, the director only made not too bad This Means War and the box office bomb 3 Days to Kill, in which Kevin Costner tried to become an active retiree like Liam Neeson. This Terminator had serious problems. Many of those were due to Christian Bale's involvement. His participation caused significant script changes. At first, the entire plot was focused mainly on Marcus, and John Connor appeared only in the ending. Bale was offered to become Marcus, but he wanted pretty badly to become the savior and only the savior. So the script was changed ASAP, and now included all these super mega terrific important scenes with John Connor. Additionally, due to a leaked script, the creators had to reshoot some scenes and keep John Connor alive. The original ending was Marcus changing his appearance and transforming into John Connor, but that ending was cut. Instead, we got a heart transplant and the salvation of the Savior himself. The creators tried to play the Savior as well and replaced the R rating of the film with a PG-13 one, but no salvation happened there. The movie cost $200 million and earned $371 million, and that's pretty weak performance for such a budget. Terminator Salvation was the most expensive non-studio film in Hollywood. The independent company lacked the necessary skills in promotion and didn't have all the resources. The distributors Warner and Sony weren't eager to spend more than the bare minimum on the independent film and did a sloppy job overall. That surely affected the box office result. Salvation was released the same day as the sequel to Night at the Museum and lost to it. A week later, the excellent start of Disney's animated film Up completely wrecked Terminator. From there, the film's performance only got worse. The rights to the franchise once again changed owners. You know, they say that no one would make a sequel to a failed movie. Sequels keep going. There was no box office failure then. That's logical and even partly true. Those who failed don't make anything. The new filmmakers, who didn't lose money, do. They believe they can do better. After all, the previous film surely was made by some morons, huh? Taking a praise break with Terminator Salvation, James Cameron returned to praise the next one. Genisys, in his opinion, is an excellent film with amazing plot twists, not because it features a talented actor, Arnold Schwarzenegger. Overall, that didn't help the movie's reviews, its US box office, and its director career, though. It was now Alan Taylor who decided to screw up his job path. Previously, Alan did The Sopranos, Rome, Game of Thrones, and the second Thor. After Genisys, the director's career immediately went down the drain. He once had cult series to his credit, but after Genisys, a couple of projects he attempted on TV were quickly canceled. Genisys had the potential to be not that bad, but for whatever reason, some goat rodeo happened to its cast. It's not even that the actors were bad. For instance, Lee Byung-hun is an excellent actor, but as the Liquid Terminator, he comes across like a sloppy cover of your favorite song. You just want to wipe this abomination out of existence. Same for Emilia Clarke. For some reason, she decided to rob a Hollywood bakery instead of focusing on training. One might assume Clarke didn't fully understand what kind of movie she was supposed to be in and tried to portray Daenerys in retirement. But the actress has mentioned many times that at the age of 8, she watched the first two Terminator movies with her 9-year-old brother repeatedly. In the UK, by the way, these films are not suitable for such a young age, as they can cause some damage to a child's psyche. This once again shows the age rating system is nonsense and needs to be revised. Films like Basic Instinct, Saw, and Terminator are obviously not the same and should be differentiated. The other actors are also a bummer. Whatever the heck Jai Courtney had to do to get the role remains a major Hollywood mystery. Jason Clarke is actually a decent actor. He has portrayed various tractor drivers well in many films, but why he was cast in this one is also unclear. Simply recasting everyone and having someone else as a director would have resulted in a completely different movie. No changes to the script even needed, but it is what it is. Genisys, with a budget of $155 million, made $440 million at the box office. It became the most successful film of the franchise after the Judgment Day. There were plans for a trilogy and rough drafts for all the next movies. They would have definitely made the sequel if it weren't for poor reviews from critics and viewers, and the movie's success mostly in the Chinese box office. In the US, it only made $89 million, which is also one of the reasons the film was forgotten. The GOAT rodeo with casting started in Genisys, continued in Terminator Dark Fate. For example, Natalia Reyes is a good actress, but when she tries to act tough, it feels like this.
This is no place for a hobbit!
This time, the director was Tim Miller, who had just succeeded with Deadpool. From there, he was quickly pushed out by Ryan Reynolds, who suddenly became a star again. So apparently, Miller decided to ruin his career completely after that. But Tim Miller wasn't alone this time. James Cameron decided to participate, and it's believed he contributed to the script and gave some tips during shooting by the phone, not visiting the set. One of his tips was to ignore all the previous Terminators made after the second one. Why ignore those amazing movies, highly appreciated by Cameron himself, you may ask? Well, no one actually clarified that. After revisioning the script, Cameron pulled back a bit. But then, Miller showed the first rough cut of the film to the test audience and got pelted with tomatoes. Cameron tried to sort out this mess. He made some corrections and the movie was sent back to production and remade. Miller wasn't happy about all that and heavily criticized Cameron after. According to Miller, the film was almost finished and looked awesome, but Cameron intervened and changed many things. So now Miller can't actually say whose movie Dark Fate is after all, but definitely not his. The director also claims that almost all of his ideas regarding the plot were rejected by Cameron. For instance, Tim Miller proposed to completely reconsider the concept and make humans the main villains in the new Terminator, for the reason that the rebels had had enough of John Connor and his nonsense about saving humanity. Miller and Cameron discussed this for a long time, but in the end, Cameron said no. He also reduced John Connor's presence in the movie to a bare minimum. In the beginning of the film, there were meant to be John and Sarah dialogues about saving the world. Cameron thought the visual effects won't nail showing John Connor realistically, and these dialogues would look like a complete joke. Dark Fate suffered from delays a lot. The studio changed the release date from summer to fall at the last minute. Another Fast and Furious was releasing too close to the original date, so the studio feared it may affect Terminator. But the delay didn't help. In its first week, Dark Fate showed the weakest result in the franchise after the first Terminator. That's true, that unlike the fourth and fifth Terminators, Dark Fate opened at number 1 though. It even displaced Joker, which was number 1 in the chart for 4 weeks straight. But by the second week of release, Dark Fate fell to 5th place, and by the third week it had dropped out of the top 10. So, Terminator Dark Fate's budget was $185 million, and it earned only $261 million at the box office. All its sequels were immediately canceled. More than that, it was announced the franchise is taking a break. The one who got a grilling was Tim Miller. Cameron hit first. He stated he wouldn't have gotten involved for any amount of money, but Linda Hamilton is his ex-wife, and Arnie is his beloved friend, so due to them, he had to take part. The plot and actors were awkward to blame for whatever reasons, and Arnie is already a senior, so what else did you expect? And that's exactly how the director responsible for Deadpool, the opening credits of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the beginning of Thor 2, and numerous video game trailers, was comfortably left to be eaten. Once again, after the release of Dark Fates, the previous films seem better. So what has to happen in the 7th film for the cycle to repeat itself, and for Dark Fates to shine in new colors? This year, streaming service Netflix is releasing an anime based on the Terminator. Anime isn't a film or even a TV series, but Japanese animation can afford to be quite experimental and test different approaches. Although not officially confirmed, it is said that James Cameron is challenged by the idea of making a new Terminator film, considering the implications of AI technology in our current times. He is going to write a script and make a new film, but this time, without Arnie. To be honest, I think this is a good thing, because Arnold was in many ways bigger than the franchise, and the obsession with having him in every Terminator really felt awkward. So the idea of a fresh start with a blockbuster and sequel genius James Cameron in full control is something I'd really like to see. He really flipped the table while working on the Alien sequel. Check out in the next video. If you enjoyed, like and subscribe. And I wish you to explore more Hollywood lore. See ya!